me, but for all women. Releasing women from low wages that have burdened us for decades provides an avenue of equality that we have all dreamed of. When an employer flat out refuses to pay a woman equal to her male counterparts, what does this communicate about the value of a woman to our society? I cannot help but to think of the women of color who got us into space, who did so riding in the back of buses, using separate restrooms, and receiving less pay. It was all protocol, procedure, and policy, masking as nothing more than discrimination. The Fresno County Superintendent of Schools, Jim Iovino, has fought me tooth and nail for years, hiding behind a standard operating procedure that is now, today, unlawful. Latina women have the largest pay gap in the nation. This is our current reality, not the reality from decades ago. This is what is happening in the 21st century. And this is what the reality I had to face in 2012 when, as a male mathematics educator, seeing a new male hire come into play, I was finishing my second master's degree and found out that he would be making $13,000 more than I was when I had more seniority, experience, and education. It was not enough to file a lawsuit. I wanted to do more. I talked to women around me, and I came to understand that my story was all too common. Becoming an advocate for the economic security of women was my way of making a difference. I worked with legislators and advocates to pass some of the strongest equal pay bills in the nation. Why is it important to pay women fairly? Women are the major breadwinners in 40% of households. Women are the majority of teachers, nurses, early childhood care providers. Paying women fairly could cut the poverty rate in half. When women are paid fairly, families are stronger and communities are stronger. I want my daughters here who've grown up most of their lives in courtrooms and in Sacramento, seeing their mom fight for equal pay. I want my daughters to grow up in a world where equal pay for equal work is ensured, not something they have to fight for. I want to thank my legal representation, Dan Siegel and Kevin Bruner. I want to thank AUW, the national site, and many local branches all over the nation. I want to thank Noreen Farrell and Jessica Standard of the Equal Rights Advocates for their work on this case on my behalf. And I want to thank all of these people behind me for their support, because no woman fights a battle like this alone. To this end, I would also like to take this opportunity to formally make an announcement. Once again, I am stepping out of my comfort zone and doing what some would say is impossible. But that's how change happens. I'm running for California State Assembly. And I am committed to supporting workers, teachers, and families. And this is the message I want everyone to hear, because we are watching a revolution grow. Women are half the human race, and you can't just ignore us. We will no longer let ourselves be paid less, be harassed at work, be assaulted on college campuses, and be victims of domestic violence. Our time is now, and the tides have changed. And women like me everywhere are taking up the mantle to assume roles we were always capable of, but the call has never been stronger. And so I stand here before you not as a politician, but as an educator, a wife, a mother, and a woman who, like many out there, is willing to stand in the gap. Change can happen if we stand together. Thank you for standing with me today.
Go ahead, say your name.
My name's Aileen Rizzo.
Okay. And Aileen, today you won a court case, or at least they've entered a preliminary decision in your favor, right?
Yes.
And so this case began in what year?
In 2013 was the filing for the lawsuit.
And why did you file a lawsuit?
On July 31st, 2012, during a business lunch with some of my colleagues, I was the only full-time woman in the math department, and one of the newly hired males talked about he had signed his new contract.
And this was what group?
It was the math department at Fresno County Office of Education.
Okay.
So that group was having a business meeting, and he talked about how he had signed at salary step 9 on a 10-step salary scale at the time.
And you were at what?
And I was at step 4 in my 4th year at the County Office of Education.
Okay, so you were already a seasoned employee.
Yes.
And you had started from step 1?
I had started in step 1, and I had worked previously with him, so I knew that I had more experience. I was finishing a second master's degree, and he did not have a master's degree. And so I was quite alarmed and floored and stunned and all of the above about how that could happen and how he could be making so much more money than I was making.
Right. And you have two master degrees in what?
I have a master's degree in educational technology and one in mathematics education.
Okay. And so you were both teaching the exact same?
We were going to have the exact same title. The only difference between him and I was I could do upper level mathematics and he could not. He was an elementary teacher.
Oh, okay. And what level classes were you teaching?
I was doing everything. I was doing from kindergarten all the way to college level.
Oh, really? So they were slotting you in wherever they needed you?
Wherever they needed me, they could slot me in because I had the knowledge of all those grade levels.
And so for him, they only had him assigned to one class?
Yeah, up to 4th grade. I think he did kindergarten or 4th grade.
So what was the reasoning as to why they gave him a step 9 versus you only at a step 4?
So I made an appointment with the HR administrator and went to talk to her about that very thing. And so I asked her, I told her about how I found out, and I asked her about the discrepancy. And she said, oh, well, we have a formula to figure out your salary. Did anyone ever talk to you about it? And I said no. And she said, well, in your application packet, you provided the contract from your previous employer, who was a school. And we used that number and put 5% on that. And she said, but your salary was so low, we put you at step 1, even though your salary was lower than the 5% added on there.
Okay, so they didn't even take in consideration all of your experience and your degrees?
No, nothing else was considered. It was solely based on my previous salary.
Okay, so you could have been coming from where were you coming from? What county?
I was coming from actually another state. I was coming from Arizona.
Well, that's a right-to-work state. They can't compare. You're not comparing apples to apples.
And even in our own county, we have different districts who pay different amounts to teachers. Rural districts don't pay as much as, Clovis districts, So when I asked about that, she said, well, this is the way we've always done it, and this is the way we're doing it. So when she said that, she was kind of telling me that it wasn't going to change. And I said, well, the Equal Pay Act says that you have to pay a woman and a man the same unless it's based on merit, seniority, experience, education. And I said, and I already outdo the newly male hired in all of those areas. When I said that, she got out a notepad and started taking notes down and kind of took it serious. She said, I'll investigate it and be with you in a week. That turned to a month. And I got a letter from them that said, we know you feel slighted by the way things are playing out, but we're not going to change anything.
Okay.
So I went home with that letter in my hand with a big decision to make. Mm-hmm. What was I going to do about that? And when I got home, my daughters ran into my arms like they always did when I get home. Mm-hmm. And I realized for the first time that I needed to do something so that their future was different. Because if it had happened to my daughter, I would be livid. I would be out there advocating for her. But so many times women swallow the things that are hard, carry the burdens that are heavy, because that's just what we're used to doing.
Right.
And I thought about, maybe I'll just go get another job, maybe I'll just grin and bear it. But I knew that I had to do something about it. And so that's when I got serious about finding legal representation and filing the lawsuit.
So now this has been going on for 5 or 6 years?
It's almost 6 years. So that the filing happened in 2013 because I had to get permission from the State Department to sue a state entity. Mm-hmm. So that took about 6 months to get the permission for a right to sue. So the 2013 is when the filing date happened, and then it's just been a long process ever since.
Okay. And you came straight to the federal court, or was there superior court? Or?
So we initially filed in both, but the county moved for it to be moved to the federal, and they were granted their motion. So that's why it's only in the federal court system.
Okay. So you speak fluent.
For a summary of judgment, which brought us here to actually this same courthouse building, where a judge refused their summary of judgment and sided with me and said, if you solely use prior pay, you have a great risk of it impacting protected classes, women, minorities, and so forth. The county office appealed that decision to the Ninth Circuit, and it went to the Ninth Circuit, and 3 justices overturned the federal court's decision and said, no, you can use prior salary to base a woman's salary. If she's making less, you can pay her less. Well, that was an uproar all across the nation of several advocacy groups who came together and said we need to write an amicus brief. A brief that asked the Ninth Circuit to rehear my case. And they decided that they would take that case in bank. So in this last December, they reheard the case. 11 justices this time reheard the case. And we have been waiting for that decision. And so today, on April 9th, they gave us their answer that you cannot use solely prior pay. In fact, you cannot use prior pay at all to base someone's salary.
And what was their decision? You have to do it.
You have to do it by other measures: experience, education, merit. And the issue there was the Equal Pay Act was created and signed to get rid of the fact that women were being paid less. So how can you use the reason of the equal pay less to justify breaking the equal pay law?
That sounds insane, huh?
Yep.
So essentially, what does this give you? I mean, is it dollars and cents, or what are they offering?
Well, what I'm definitely looking for is the back pay that was lost, and the interest on that, of course. So it looks like there's a lot of things that could happen. They could appeal it to the Supreme Court, who would then hear my case, or it could go to a trial where a jury would decide on my award.
Well, I don't see a jury denying you a right, especially now that we have all this Me Too going on. What do you think?
Well, someone did say that the county office has made a statement that they're considering going to the Supreme Court. And my comment is it might not be the right time to threaten a woman's pay, because I think women are now standing up, and equality is the thing that we are passionate about. And if you can't be equal in the workplace, how can you be equal anywhere else?
Exactly. So I appreciate your time, and you made some announcement too just a minute ago.
I did. I am running for Assembly District 23 to represent my district and the things that matter to me. Equal pay for equal work, the economic security of women, families, teachers. As an educator, I'm passionate about supporting teachers and families.
Right. Okay, so perhaps we'll get some restructuring of classes and classrooms, and how people are paid, and take a look at that. And I notice myself that some of these schools here in West Fresno and Southeast Fresno, they have up to 1,000 students just roaming around in different classes, and their classroom sizes are 30 to 35 students versus the ones in Clovis, which barely house 20 to 23 students every day.
Yes.
Okay?
There's definitely a discrepancy there.
Yes. And the other thing is that we're talking about people being shot up. And that concerned me, and I thought, you know what, we need to restructure how, where, and who is educating our children.
Exactly.
You know,
there's a definite problem that the farther removed you are from the student, the more money you're making. What are we communicating about the value of our children when the early educators are the least paid people in education, and they are with our children at the most critical education points of their life? 0 to 5 is the most critical time to learn anything, and we pay those people the less.
the least. So things have to change, and we need to
Right,
support our
right.
teachers from
Right.
all of those domains.
I mean, they're wonderful teachers, and you guys spend a lot of time learning your trade. And the thing is that they're even in like colleges, like Fresno State and whatnot. Okay, I don't mind paying my tax dollars to support the school. That's okay. But when it comes to supporting people, and I don't know if Fresno State does tenure anymore or not, but when you're supporting someone to take a sabbatical, which means a time off, and get paid 125 or 150,000 during that time and not work, and they're writing a book which you're going to get royalties from, I don't think that that's in the best interest of our students or the taxpayers. So some of those things need to change. If those people, just like any other people working, choose to make that decision, they need to go on their own time off, because they're getting paid when they're up to that level to get be considered for tenure. They're already making quite a bit of money. They're past the $80,000 mark. You know, so those are some of the issues as a mom that concern me, because even as an older student, I went back to school and finished at 50 years old, and ran into some teachers that were like, oh my God, you worked through everything that you did, and now you're getting your degree, which is in reverse. And I said, you're a doctor of what? I'm not trying to be sarcastic. But really, truly, we can teach people so much information, but until they actually get hands-on and experience the work themselves and put all of that knowledge to work, they really haven't had, how do I say, experience?
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think about that?
I agree. There needs to be a definite balance on what teachers learn. I think, I mean, there's so many people who have different experiences, and we're all coming from different perspectives.
Yes.
And so we definitely need to embrace the journey and the walk that other people have had that is different from us. I think that that's what we need more. As our district or our area grows in diversity, we need to have everybody sitting at the table, because when we don't, we have a select few with very comparable experiences making the decisions. And that hurts us. And so that's definitely one of the reasons that I wanted to run, because being a person who's willing to listen to the voices and not just pushing them aside is what we need as a representative.
Exactly, and thinking outside the box and actually having to be in fighting mode for your livelihood and for who you are and what you've studied. I mean, 2 degrees, master degrees, that took you, what, 16 years or something like that?
It took a long time. It was at 2 different times. I'm currently in a PhD program, so I'm a person that's been dedicated to education and is trying to think about how do we solve the problems that we have and look beyond the boxes that we live in, because other countries deal with issues as well. What works there, what doesn't work there, and how can we compare what they're facing to what we're facing? I mean, the world is flattening and technology is connecting us more now than it ever has been. The future jobs that our kids will have probably don't exist yet. So the decisions that need to be made for the future of jobs and security start with our children, and really start with, the education that they're getting.
And conforming the status quo to something that's more movable, more flexible, to include everyone of all ages.
Yeah,
not just children, but all of us together, because all together we're our little 2 cents add up to 100% eventually. Yeah. So I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And congratulations.
Thank you.
And I wish you the best.
Thank you.
And all the ladies out there understand that this young lady, she fought a battle and she's still fighting it, and we might see her at the Supreme Court. You never know. Oops, go.
My name is Aileen Rizzo, and today is an historic day for all women.
Mi nombre es Aileen Rizzo. Hoy es un día muy importante para todas las mujeres.
We now have some stronger ways to advocate for equal pay for equal work.
Ahora tenemos más oportunidad para pelear por pago igual para trabajo igual.
Regardless of your previous salary, but based on your education and experience, that's the way that all women should be paid.
No como estabas pagado antes, pero en educación y experiencia en el trabajo.
So women who are educated, well-experienced professionals from other countries
Mujeres profesionales de otros países que tienen experiencia y educación
should know and be knowledgeable about their rights to have equal pay for equal work.
deben de ser, deben de conocer que tienen esos derechos de tener pago igual para el trabajo.